Welcome to Don't Pick the Scab podcast, the show where we dive deep into personal growth, relationships, and the power of transformation in men's recovery from divorce. In today's episode, we're joined by inspiring Cindy Tusa, a wellness expert with over 6 years of experience helping people uncover and transform limiting beliefs at the subconscious level. Cindy's unique perspective and personal journey, including her story of healing after the divorce and redefining her relationship with love, offers listeners a profound look into how our subconscious programming impacts every aspect of our lives, from success to relationships to overcoming trauma. In this conversation, Cindy will share actionable insights on how to identify and shift subconscious patterns, the role of emotional healing and personal growth, and how love and relationships are not always synonymous, which is interesting. Whether you're on your own journey of self-discovery or just curious about the inner workings of the mind, this episode will leave you feeling inspired and empowered. Let's dive in. So tell us a little bit about yourself, Cindy, and we'll go from there.
Sure. Let's see. My first career was as a nurse, and that was for about 20 years. Incidentally, it timed along the lines of when my divorce happened. And then I've been a business owner since about 2016. But more directed to the content for your program, I was with my husband, the love of my life, for almost 20 years. And in 2014, we got divorced, and it was required because we were such a great couple. Even I didn't realize that we had major problems in the marriage.
Wow.
And ultimately, the best way I can describe it is that if these are my wounds and these are his wounds, and we're talking about subconscious wounds from our childhood, from our upbringing, from traumas, but our wounds basically did this. They dovetailed together perfectly. So we ended up becoming a complete being together. And that was great. But at some point in there, as everybody is aware that marriages, they change as you go. At somewhere in there, my wounds really started to play a much bigger role in the marriage. And the mantra was, if you didn't have all of this baggage and depression and trauma from your childhood, then everything would be fine. So for many years prior to the divorce, I had been on a healing journey for myself because I believed it. I was like, if I wasn't so flawed, then we would get along much better and things would be much better. That healing journey actually is what ended up getting the divorce, because I recognized, hey, wait a minute, it's not just me. And so I went forward with the divorce. My ex-husband did not want it. But I think both of our goal was that we would do it well for the kids. Our kids were 9 and 11 at the time. And I think we really did a good job with that. He didn't want the divorce, like I said, but he did, and went through a little bit of a period of significant anger towards me. But since then, I'd say for probably the last 7 or 8 years, we've healed a lot of the wounds between us, and are great friends. We talk on a regular basis, and we went on vacation together at the beginning of the year. Like, it's a positive thing. Wow. Because ultimately, when you can recognize that we're flawed people and there are aspects of these other people that you loved in the first place, when you can get past that and choose to recognize that this is a divine person God created, and we are doing our best to human, and that nobody is perfect, you recognize about your flaws, then you're able to have compassion and understanding for that other person's wounds, and you can look past them a little bit easier. Wow. So I love my ex-husband, as much today as I did the day I married him. And as a matter of fact, that when we got married, we walked down the aisle together, and we were arguing on the way down the aisle about something super trivial. But so I laugh at that. But the love is there. It's just the relationship. We're not meant to be in relationship with each other. And we both recognize that and see that it's a positive.
Wow. So what exactly are subconscious beliefs and why do they play such a major role in our lives?
You bet. Our subconscious mind, if I can use the example of an iceberg, right? You have the little bit that's showing above the surface, and then you've got the massive part down below. Our subconscious mind is the massive part down below. It is the part that is running the show. The subconscious mind is running everything from our beliefs to how our body functions, to how we perceive the world. It's our long-term memory. It's a lot. Our conscious mind, the little bit, about 5% of the total mind, is where we have conscious thought, where we plan things, where we're doing calculations, where we're creating, and those sorts of tasks, short-term memory. So most of our society only focuses on the conscious mind aspect, but the subconscious is so powerful, it will override your conscious mind every time if there are limiting or self-sabotaging beliefs that have been programmed in there.
And what's an example of a self-sabotaging belief, for example?
Sure. When we are, so a little bit, let me explain how it's also programmed.
Okay.
When we are born and actually in utero, our subconscious mind picks up everything. It's always on. It's always running. And so just for example, like no mother or father ever has had to look at their baby and say, now baby, when I smile, I'm happy. Babies and children pick up on everything about how to function as a human by what they're observing and feeling in their environment.
Correct.
And so that's what's actually programming the subconscious mind. So when a baby's needs are met, they cry, someone takes care of their need, they feed them, they change them, what have you. Or the little child makes a mistake and instead of getting berated, they're encouraged to try again. Those are just two examples of the gazillion that there are. But that's what actually programs our subconscious mind. And unfortunately, because no parent is perfect, parents are dealing with stress, they're dealing with their own relationship issues, financial issues, all the things that life is throwing at them. So they're not always attending to that child with the most positive approach or demeanor. But that child doesn't take that in as, oh, mom is stressed today. It's I'm bad. There's something wrong with me. I've upset mom. I'm not worthy. She doesn't love me. And those, when they are repeated over time, are what then become our limiting beliefs or our subconscious beliefs. Most of them, unfortunately, are limiting, meaning they are not saying, for example, I am worthy. That's a big one for folks. Most people have the belief of I am unworthy. And so what that does is you might think in your conscious mind, I'm going to do this. I'm going to succeed at this. I'm going to launch this project, or I'm going to do this business, or I'm going to do whatever. But then in the subconscious, the second that things start to get stressful and we drop into more of a low vibrational state, that's when your subconscious mind kicks in. And your subconscious mind is just record and playback, and it's going to be like, yeah, no, you tried, but you're not worthy. You're not good enough. You can't do this. And so whenever we're running into brick walls with things, that's a clue that we have a limiting belief at the subconscious.
So can you explain the connection between trauma and subconscious programming?
Sure. The trauma is when trauma doesn't have to be a major thing like someone dying or abuse. Trauma can be something as simple as that overbearing parent that never allows the child to make a decision or to fall down or to make a mistake. And so they end up, it's traumatizing at the subconscious level. We think of trauma as huge things, but huge traumas absolutely inform the subconscious. For example, I'll just throw out my own personal. My parents died when I was 7. They died 9 months apart. That was admittedly traumatic, especially in the 70s when it was basically kids didn't matter. And so there was no, let's process this. But abandonment became a huge programming in my life. It didn't matter that my parents didn't choose to leave. They left. And as a 7-year-old child, I wasn't rationalizing that. My security, my foundation, it was gone in a span of 9 months. And so again, that then led into my relationship with my ex-husband, whereas he was the rock, he was the strong, he was the capable. And so I really needed that because I didn't have a foundation. But because of his fears, it ended up overcoming some of that for, like, his limiting beliefs and mine ended up becoming toxic together.
Wow. So how can we begin to identify and rewrite limiting beliefs? What are some of the tools we can use, some of the simple things we can think about?
First is awareness. With any kind of changes, you're aware, sorry for the redundancy there, but the awareness is the first clue. When you even just start recognizing that all the intent in the world from the conscious mind can't change what's going on at the subconscious mind. And trying to be aware of when you respond to things. Most people are aware, wow, I was just really rude to that person people don't just wander. Nobody wakes up in the morning, I'm going to be a royal jerk today and just really see whose day I can ruin. Nobody wakes up like that. But because of that programming, because of stressors, because of a lot of stuff, that's when things trigger us and we end up saying or doing things that we wouldn't really appreciate. That's when one of the ways you can recognize when you have limiting beliefs. Mm-hmm. Or if you have your own depression and anxiety, those are coming from the subconscious primarily. Not always, but primarily they are. And so you can start to try and find patterns for when you are dealing with certain issues. Maybe it is a relationship issue and you recognize that your response to that issue that's triggering you, that's coming from a limiting belief. As far as transforming them, there are lots of different ways to transform limiting beliefs out there. I personally found it's called Psych. It's PSYCH-K. And it just resonated very strongly for me. I found it by accident, and I'm a huge believer in being guided to what we need when we need it. And it's a set of processes that use ancient wisdom, neuroscience, and quantum physics to transform those beliefs. It takes minutes. And mind you, one and done is not the way it works because your subconscious is so dynamic and there's so many layers to it, but it can be powerful. But if you're not even interested in seeking some sort of facilitator to assist with that, mantras are like when you meditate. Meditation is huge. Meditation and getting into a higher state of frequency is huge because the higher you can keep your frequency, the less your subconscious limiting beliefs are going to have a factor. So when I'm up here, I'm not dealing with the same yuck that I'm dealing when I'm way down low. So keeping your vibration high, and meditation is a great way to do that. Mantras can be beneficial, but they're very slow and they take a really long time. You can repeat every day I'm getting better and better, whatever that mantra is. But the conscious mind, I always say, is slow and dumb. If you figure it's probably running at around 40,000 bits per second, like a computer, your subconscious is running at like 40 million bits per second. So for the conscious to overwrite the subconscious, it's going to take a long time. That's why the subconscious can just thwart the conscious mind in a heartbeat.
One of the things that men, especially the guys I talk to, one of their limiting beliefs is in co-parenting. They want to control what happens at the ex's house. And that is a huge limiting belief that really crashes on a lot of men. How can they handle that? What are some of the ways they can ward that off or maybe take care of that?
You bet. Ultimately, when we talk about limiting beliefs, they come from a place of fear or insecurity.
Okay.
Control, that need for control is truly I call it a wound expression. It's how our limiting beliefs are expressing themselves to the world. You could say a stress response, but I believe the term wound expression is more descriptive because we think of stress as out here, and really the stress is my belief related to my experience. But when we have beliefs that are rooted in fear and insecurity, they manifest in ways that are not beneficial. And so how one would go about fixing that control belief, I'll just tell you, it's going to be hard. Because let me put a little perspective. People typically with their wound expressions fall in two major camps. There's one camp, and these are the folks, these are probably more of the sensitives, definitely probably a higher percentage of women, where we internalize these wounds and take it on and don't lash out at people around us, but take it on ourselves. And then there are the folks that are so afraid that they can't allow it in, because God forbid what that might produce. Yep. So they push it out. The people that push out are typically the ones that have the controlling needs and issues. It's harder for someone who isn't willing to welcome the vulnerability and the fact that they might have wounds to work on, and they would rather blame and push it off on other people. It's harder for that subset of folks to actually transform these beliefs. Not saying that it's not possible, okay, but it absolutely is more difficult.
You talked about the role of self-awareness and how that plays in transforming ingrained beliefs. What about, I talk about the self-cousins, respect, care, all those self-cousins, how do they apply into transforming ingrained beliefs?
If you have self-respect, let's say, I have a strong sense of self-respect, that's a huge step. That's a huge win, if you will. I trust myself. I respect myself. I love myself. I am compassionate with myself. All of those, like you're talking, when we start there and we can fill this and heal this, it comes out externally. When we are focused on healing and fixing all of the things out here that are the problems, we have a much harder and much longer path to actually healing anything, because every experience that we have in our lives is coming from within. We are generating it here. It's not happening out here. And I don't know, I went off on a tangent. I don't know if that answered your question.
Because I want to hear people with the self-cousins, they go, what? Self-cousins? Yeah, there's a bunch of self-cousins.
Oh, absolutely.
Can you share an example of how you've helped someone transform their limiting beliefs? Like a general example.
Oh, absolutely. I own an aesthetic school, a beauty school where we focus on skincare. We don't do hair and nails. And I use it quite a bit with my students when they battle significant test anxiety. Test anxiety, for example, is it is founded in the subconscious mind. There is some belief in there that when we go to take a test that says, I am not smart enough, I am not capable, I am not worthy, They're worried about someone being angry with them. Thus, it's a security issue. Usually it's a parent. There's something that's coming from that early childhood that is saying, I can't do this. And so I will, when I have a student that it comes to me expressing their concern about their test anxiety, we will do a session or two or whatever is necessary to get to those limiting beliefs. I use the processes of Psych-K with them, and they pass the test.
Wow,
So
that's pretty cool. What are some of the biggest misconceptions people have about healing and personal growth that you see?
The biggest misconceptions are that I can just talk about my issues and that's actually going to solve them. It doesn't. The conscious mind approach to healing, whatever it is, it could be addiction, it could be anger issues, it could be relationship issues, anxiety, all of those things. If we're just trying to fix it at the conscious mind level, we're going to be ineffective. We have to recognize that there's a lot more going on than just what I'm actually aware of and talking about. The talking about it helps with awareness, but it doesn't fix the problem.
Gotcha. Back to the self-cousins. How do we balance self-love and love for others in relationships? So I tell people it's kind of like when the plane's going down, you put your mask on first and then you put the other mask on. How does that relate to limiting beliefs?
So if we could function in our society with just like the airplane analogy, if we could recognize that when I fill my cup, if I have the self-love within, if I have self-respect, if I trust myself, those are the qualities that I am going to then have with those people around me. You can't truly have that powerful, loving relationship that's founded on the trust, respect, and all of the cousins, like you said, if you don't have it here first. But in our society, we've been so programmed to be people pleasers. This is a big problem. Yeah. I consider myself to be like the president of the People Pleaser Recovery Program because we are, especially women, we are programmed.
You're a nurse.
Oh, absolutely. Yes. It's all about, we're told from a very early age, give. It's all about what you're doing for others. No one ever encourages, wow, how are you filling your cup so that you can give? Mothers, being a mom is backwards. We treat moms terribly. We expect moms to work, to take care of the house, to take care of the kids, to do everything. And God forbid they ask for a break to go fill their cup. Often they are guilted or it's complained or there's so much negativity around it. It's, oh, screw it. Then I won't even bother.
Yep.
That mentality is at the root of a lot of relationship problems. And here's a fun way, because I teach this stuff to my students too. Here's how I explain a good relationship. And we're talking about a good relationship with self as well as with a partner. If we look at, and I'm going to try and stay in the screen so my hand gestures not screw it up. But if we think of, we've got a whole man, I call it the divine masculine, and we've got the divine feminine. These are two people that have done the work. They're aware of their issues. They do their best to heal them with a myriad of ways, whether it's physical or non-physical. These two people then come together and they're able to support each other because they're self-supported. They're able to give because they've got it within. But most relationships are more akin to codependent. Okay. Meaning, if we're both in this high vibrational state, this is like when you first meet somebody, right? You go out on your first few dates.
Yep.
right? Ooh, he's so cute. Ooh, I'm going to put on extra makeup. I'm going to look nice. I'm going to shave my legs. And the guys, ooh, I'm actually going to take a shower. I'm going to clean the car, right? I'm going to do all these things. And so as long as everybody's in this high vibrational state, things are wonderful because, again, those limiting beliefs are not showing their ugly heads.
Correct.
As time goes on, right, we can't live up here. This isn't realistic for most people, maybe 1 or 2%. So we're going to come down here and we're going to be in this phase. And this is still great, but maybe, the dude comes home from work at the end of the week and is a little bit crabby. And so the woman does what she can to help him bring his energy and his mindset back up. And maybe the next week the gal does it. And so he helps her. And you can live doing this little dance for a really long time in a relationship. But what happens when you both are stressed? You've got little kids, you've got jobs, you've got stressful jobs, you've got financial stressors, you've got all of these external forces that are affecting you. Both people are down here in a low vibrational state. Who's pulling who up out of the gutter?
You're screwed.
Nobody is.
Yep.
And so this is where the strife happens. This is where people separate and divorce and can't do it any longer, is because if I'm not whole and I need that person to pull me up and there's nobody to pull me up, it's their fault, not mine.
Correct.
And so if we could look at coming into a relationship as a whole being, as close to whole, and working on it, we're going to have so much more potential for success because no one's dependent on the other person. The other person is a bonus. The other person is is candy, not a lifeline.
Wow, that was interesting. Very interesting. We're going to close it up here. Talk about my favorite F word, forgiveness.
Oh, yeah. Absolutely.
Yeah.
If you can't forgive yourself for the things, right? None of us are perfect. That does not exist. We can try our best. I make mistakes on a regular basis, never intentionally, but I do because I am a human. I have to be able to forgive myself when I do that and make amends. If I am short with someone and I recognize it, or I fail to respond to someone and upset them or what have you, it's my job to apologize. I didn't intend to do that, but I have to forgive myself and recognize that I have no control over if that person can forgive me or not. Forgiveness is here. It isn't out here. And once we let go of that expectation that it is my job for forgiving myself and for forgiving others, is because if I'm holding on to resentment and anger, I don't know if you've heard the phrase, it's like drinking poison and expecting the other person to die.
Right. Yep.
It's a common analogy for that. The anger and the resentment is causing me the harm, not the other person. How many times has someone upset you and then they're oblivious that you're over here stewing for days about some situation and they're completely happy and have no idea? That's because the forgiveness belongs to you and here. But we have to forgive ourselves first. Then we can learn what it feels like to then forgive others.
Cindy, I appreciate this podcast. This has been fun. Man, you are passionate. That's what I like. You never know how the podcast is going to go, because I've had a couple of duds. This was not a dud.
Good.
Where can my men find you on the internet?
Sure. You can email me at my school. It's called the website is whitemagnoliaskininstitute.com. And I have a contact there. My email is there. You can reach out if you have questions or you want to know where you can find someone. Or you can go to Psych, it's psych-k.com. And they have preferred facilitators there. I actually don't function as a facilitator for the public. My business keeps me too busy, but they have a lot of wonderful people. If you want to explore or even just read more about it and learn more about the subconscious mind, that would be also another great resource. But I'm happy to help anybody that emails.
All right. And we'll have all those connections on the show notes and go from there. But thank you again, Cindy.
You bet. It's been a pleasure.
That was fun, but hold on the line. Don't go anywhere.
Okay.